Hello, I'm Bradley. We're from Awards Radar. It's a pleasure to talk to you both.
You
Hello.
too.
Hey, Brad. Nice to talk to you too.
Louis, I was absolutely over the moon when I watched this because I'm a huge wrestling fan. And
Right on.
it's very, very rare to see wrestling in Disney and things like that. So, did your passion for wrestling come from your family?
Uh, no, but I will say my connection to my grandmother was what got better because of wrestling. When I was
Oh,
a little
okay.
kid, I was
Yeah.
super shy, and my grandma was a big personality. Most of the adults, like my aunts, they're all big personalities, right?
Hmm.
They all had something to say,
Yeah.
and my grandma was the strongest of them all because she would rule. Like it was like the one that rules them all. And so she was a little intimidating to me when I was younger, because I was kind of
Hmm.
a shy kid. And then one day she pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you like wrestling, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, grandma, I do." And then she started spitting off wrestlers' names and talking about it. I was like, and as a kid, I was like looking around like, is anyone else hearing this? And then I thought my grandma was the coolest grandma ever. I was like, oh my God, like I couldn't wait to go visit her and talk to her because now all of a sudden we had this in common. So
Hmm.
I was forever thankful for that because I feel like with my grandparents, I have like one or two things that we have in common that bonded us
Hmm.
at some point. And that was me. Wrestling was that with my grandma Pearl.
That's brilliant. I have the same relationship with my mum. She's a massive wrestling fan. And that kind of is what brought us close. So that's really good. Is there a message in particular that you were hoping to tell with the story, Louis?
Uh, well, yeah. I mean, when you're searching for the story, you're always searching for meaning in terms of what you're talking about, right? It's kind of like writing an essay. It's like you
Mhm.
have here's my statement of what I'm talking about, here's the pros and cons, and then here's my resolution, right? So with this, I started with this idea of a grandmother who's kind of stuck in place, kind of alone, but with her dog, but likes it
Mhm.
in a way, loves wrestling as an outlet, and then her granddaughter, who she loves, happens to stop by on the day, right? What this is to me is it was kind of like this feeling that I was feeling in animation, which was I kind of stopped telling my stories and doing personal stories and that kind of endeavor for my career
Mhm.
because my kids, were young and they needed the time, and I couldn't focus on my career and go like, no, kids, you keep playing, have fun. I'm gonna do my thing. I couldn't, so I had to stop it so I can balance my life between two things I love, which was working at Pixar and my kids, my family.
Mhm.
So I felt like that's what it was to start. But by the time we got to the end of it, I really felt like it was just about living in the present. You know,
Mhm.
the grandma is there; she's living in the past with her husband. Not that that's bad, but the fact that she's shutting out the present to do so is probably not healthy. So
Yeah.
I like the idea that grandma and this interaction between the grandmother and the granddaughter just help the grandmother get unstuck a little bit more to be living in the present some, which I think little kids are great for. Little kids are great
Mhm.
for living
Absolutely.
as
Yeah.
our pets.
I'll throw this to you, Courtney. When was it when you saw kind of the final cut that you thought, okay, wow, like this is it. This is the perfect version of what we were hoping for.
It was before the final cut.
Okay.
Yes, I think we definitely had a lot of iterations. I
Hmm.
think Nona for a little while, she being kind of the tough character, for a while she wasn't as likable, and so
Hmm.
kind of getting her to where she's likable, and then how that moment when the TV falls and kind of her reaction, and then what Renee does, and kind of then how they go and they have this kind of magical time together. I think those pieces we kept playing with, we kind of tried a lot of different variations. And I think when we finally kind of got those pieces to click together, before they were beautifully lit and rendered shots, it was kind of
Hmm.
the seeing that all together. You could actually feel it and you could connect to the story in a different way than you had in previous iterations. I think that's kind of when you knew of like, okay, let's make this. Let's
Hmm.
figure out how to actually finish this thing now. That was
Mhm.
Absolutely. Louis, you gave a fantastic presentation earlier, and I was quite
Thank
intrigued
you.
when you mentioned about the pitbull and how it was almost not able to make it into like the final cut. How come dogs are so hard to animate?
Well, they're hard to animate. They usually have fur, so that depending on the length of the fur, it needs to be simmed. I also wanted a hoodie on the dog, so they're like, "Are you crazy? You're trying to put a hoodie on it? Putting a hoodie on a human would be a pain in the butt, and you want to put it on a dog? We'd never do that." So I kept getting pushback in terms of like animation's hard, modeling's hard, everything about a dog is hard.
Hmm.
So I just said this. I said, "Okay, that's fine, but let's not say no yet, right? Let's not cut it yet. We'll probably have to cut it, and that's fine. But let's kick the can down the street, down the street, and see where we land, and then
Hmm.
hopefully we'll find a good resolution to kind of swap the dog out." And I love that. I wanted that dog so bad, and I pushed it so long that I think the team started liking the dog because I think the story started to work, right?
Yeah.
The story started to work. The dog was an integral part. Everyone can't imagine the dog being there. So I actually think that I got the dog because my team wanted the dog in the
I love
short.
it. Yeah.
So Anna Lacaze and Andrea Go and Tiffany Clome basically put that dog together. I feel like within a week. Courtney, am I crazy? Was it? It was like some record-breaking crazy time. I felt
It was
like
very quickly. Yes.
Wow.
yeah. So it was just because Spark, you can't build anything new. So having a dog on top of that,
Mhm. I really liked as well that the dog and Nona kind of had the same kind of clothing, and it really kind of emphasized their bond. I really, really liked that.
Thank you.
So one more thing that I really loved was the different aspect ratios that you used. What was the idea for that?
Well, Courtney, you want this?
I mean, I can start it and you can tag in.
I'll tag. Okay.
I think so the 3 different aspect ratios each had their own animation style and their own lighting style to kind of really help them feel different. And I think each one kind of warranted a different approach and treatment. So you had your normal, traditional, real world environment that had kind of more reality-based animation style, more natural lighting. Then you had the wrestling world that they're beating each other up. So you want that to be more cartoony and fun in the animation style, and brighter, more contrast in the lighting and kind of look of that. And then the imagination when they're kind of playing in this imaginary world, kind of bringing those 2 worlds together. So having some of the reality-based, but then also a lot of the playful, fun, whatever you can come up with in your crazy imagination to have these 2 do.
Hey, and check this out, Brad. What was funny about this to me is that every time, I and Courtney keeps saying this, right? She's like, when we first met, Louis had this big idea, and I'm like, I keep going like, I didn't have a big idea, Courtney, in my head, because I don't usually argue with Courtney because Courtney will win. But I was like, what's she talking about? And as you're saying this, I realized like this is why it's big, is because I had this small character piece, but there was picture in picture. These are all things that are technically difficult to do on a feature, more or less a short. So picture in picture, changing aspect ratios, doing it with effects and comp work was all stuff that probably was like, no way we're going to do that in the beginning, right? Because it costs money. And as we got into it, Courtney and the team, and we figured it out. Like, it was amazing how much stuff that they just figured out, and it cinched up so nicely.
Absolutely. And it came together really well. Well, I hope you're both very proud of that, because I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
I look forward to looking out to see what else you do, Louis.
Me too. Thanks, Brad.
Right. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Bye-bye.
All right, see you, Brad. Take care, huh?